Welcome back, Summoners. Our next guest is a true Oceanic legend. The god who replaced Nine God on Antic. The forbidden golden idol of the Golden Guardians. Dora had to explore this man's OPGG for being too damn good. Introducing Swip3rR. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. It's an absolute joy to have you here.
Yeah, man, it's awesome to be here. It's good to have a chat with somebody who's, I don't know, just a respectable person in the scene. So, yeah, it's good to be here.
Shit, he just called me respectable, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take that right to the bank because that's, honestly, I might just write that up on my wall.
Yeah,
Pike's
just call it a
respectable. Yeah. Well, mate, thank you so much. Like, we've got a little couple things we want to cover today, but I think let's just get to know you. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, my name's Brandon. I mean, a lot of people call me by Swip3rR. I've been around for a while now. It's been, I don't know, like maybe going on 11 years now in the scene. Yep. So it's been, it craved my entire life. Like, created my entire life just doing this stuff and going from playing random games, getting asked to become a professional player and just sending it from there. It's turned into like a big international journey as well. Got to go over to America for 3 years and coach one of the bigger teams in like LCS and learn a lot along the way, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, we're back here and we're back to playing and enjoying the process. So.
Yeah, mate, you're back in it. You're back in OS, the home soil. It's nice to have you back. Like I know, I said just before this, and I like to have chats with everyone as well. But you said that you born and bred here. You had a good time overseas. You're back in. I'd actually like to know. Walk us through a little bit of like your esports journey. Like you said, you've been here 11 years. So that started from your time with My Revenge, which was your first team that you played for 6 months, and then actually I think it was 3.5 months. I've done my research this time, guys. Don't worry about it. And then you went all the way to Golden Guardians. You hit LCS as a coach. Mate, tell us about this journey. Like, let's start from beginning to end.
Yeah, I mean, mate, honestly, not a lot of people know about My Revenge, so, like, I appreciate you bringing that up so I can talk about it a bit. Yeah, I mean, it all started, like, I actually dropped out of school, and for about 3 or 4 years there. It's actually kind of just like a blur, like, that part of my life. Like, it's been kind of blacked out a little bit. It's just, I mean, it was a rough time, and I got pretty good at games, but I was, like, quite a negative person back then. And out of nowhere, I don't know, it was like some like, yeah, it was like some angel. His name was Tice. It was back in the day. He asked me to like come and play for his team, which was My Revenge, and I kind of got the opportunity to showcase myself there. Back then, it was like American servers, so it was 200 ping. Like you kind of, I didn't even expect anyone in Australia was like, I didn't even know about pro play or anything like that when I started. Like I had no like ambitions or anything. I just kind of played games. And that's kind of like where it all started, and I was like a Tryndamere one trick.
I saw that actually, yeah.
Yeah. So I had to like kind of like while I was playing, I was like branching out like my champion pool, and that lasted for 6 months. I was actually like I got asked to play mid lane even though I was a top laner at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, it was definitely a transition, and like I don't know, I was just kind of enjoying like the environment, just growing up in sports and stuff. I hadn't experienced that for a while, and that kind of like sparked my passion. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna send this, you know, I'm gonna keep going. And played my first LAN in Sydney, which like was about an hour drive. Like I hadn't really ever like traveled anywhere proper outside of like with family, so it was like a big thing for me. Met some awesome people like Spooks at the first event, who I ended up playing with for a long time. He was playing on the second best team, so there was like Team Immunity, Mind Freak, which was like Spooks and Swip3rR in that, and then it was My Revenge, who like we actually came second that tournament, I believe. But just kind of like a bunch of random names like Denian and Tice, like there was a few names that have been thrown around, and they traveled internationally beforehand, so got to learn a bit from them. And then I think as that kept on going on, like randomly there was like Riot got introduced into the scene, and it was like a tournament held at PAX, and you had to be 16 plus to play at these tournaments when it was like Riot, and the Team Immunity top laner Maddie, he was like underage, so like he had to he got axed in the process, which was like unfortunate because he was really good at the time. He was like the goat of top lane, and Radia, like I think it played solo queue with me for like a few days before this decision, and he's like, oh, I want Swip3rR as my top laner just from like solo queue interactions.
Damn.
So I went back from mid to top lane, and joined like the roster that is like the best, like one of the best rosters you've kind of seen in OS. Like it's up there, like at Mount Rushmore, because Radio was like such a dominant player at that time. He was like the Michael Jordan. And if you played on his team, like you pretty much won, even if you weren't like that good. So like I was like, I think I was like holding my own. I was decent, but I definitely wasn't like into my prime yet. I was definitely had to learn a lot.
Well, what rank were you at that point?
I think like the majority of the pros around then were Diamond 2 NA. That was kind of like, there was a point system where it was like 1-0 to like, I mean, peak was like 2,500, and then it swapped to like Platinum, Diamond, Master, I think was the highest at the time. And I got to around Diamond 1, like 80 points, which was like amongst the top end of the region, like for playing on NA server.
Yeah. 200 ping as well. God damn, man. Like
playing Trinivir on 200 ping was not easy, I'll tell you that.
Oh mate, your right arm must have been way bigger than your left arm at that point. You must have just been jacked. That would have just been your predictive knowledge was just like, yeah, I see he's gonna do this, and then you're just already there. I was like, that's awesome. Like that's honestly such a feat in itself.
Yeah, I mean, it was an experience for sure. It probably taught you, like, I mean, going to 0 ping after that, you're like supercharged. You're like super sane all of a sudden, you know. So we had kind of had that on the younger gen. But no, like Radio and Heavens were like two of like the higher end players, and like getting to play with them and winning that tournament, we got to go over to Germany. So I was like pretty much like, as I joined their team, I got to experience my first international event. We're versing like Brazil and Turkey, and Russia, and we didn't end up doing, I mean, kind of the story of OS. We had a strong start in the wild cards, and then kind of like choked our way out of it. Which is kind of a bit of a narrative.
Oceania, may you rest in peace.
Yeah. Yeah, and then after that tournament, I think our mid jungle, our jungler got removed, but our mid laner kind of stepped down, and that's when Spooks and Swip3rR joined. And that was like the start of an era, pretty much.
Dream team, man. I remember those days, actually. Like I remember because I was playing back then too, but I wasn't really doing anything. I was just playing for fun and shits and geeks with my mates. But I remember seeing like those names around, you know what I mean? Like they were just like, I had a mate who was also quite high. I think back in those times he was about Diamond, and he was on a team. I can't even remember what the team was called. And he's just like, yo man, this guy just keeps shitting on me, and I'm pretty sure it was Spooks. And I was just like, fuck, man. I was like, oh, he must be pretty good. He's like, yeah, he's real fucking good. I was like, all right. I was like, just in high school, I was just chilling, man. I was like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's just said the word spooks. Like, is he getting scared? Like, what's going on?
He was a demon, Spooks. He was a really good player in that period. Yeah, and it kind of, I mean, we actually had some growing pains at the start. We actually lost our first tournament pretty early. Like, we went to WCG, which was still a thing, and that's when we got to play against CJ Blaze, which was like the SKT. They were like the T1 of back then. They were untouchable, and getting to play against them, I think, made us all realize how shit we were at the game. To be honest, at like a global level, Flame became like my idol instantly, which was like a OG top lane like god, and then we went back to OS, and we actually lost 2 tournaments in a row to Avant, which was like Carbon, Tallywhacker, Minky Whale, like that kind of era. And that's where the rivalry started between our two teams. And I think they turned into Legacy, and we turned into Chiefs around that period.
Correct.
And then from that point, it was just a back and forth. We ended up stealing their support Egym, which created that. It kind of like added more fire to that rivalry. And then like 2014 was a super competitive year between us, but then 2015 and 2016 and we started kind of creating a bit more of a gap between us. And that was when we had our super dominant year in 2015, which we got to travel. We went to Turkey twice that year. 2016, they had some unfortunate timings where like they had a player banned, or like they couldn't play like someone in the finals, and it could have been a much closer series, but we ended up taking 2016 as well. And that's when we were overseas for about 5 or 6 months straight, which was pretty awesome.
Wow.
That was kind of like, got to really level up in life, take a lot of experiences, going from like Brazil to Paris to Oakland. Just went everywhere. Got to go to All Stars that year.
Oh,
So that was probably the best esports year that I've been a part of.
yeah.
Just because like you're with all the boys, you're traveling, you feel like proper athletes kind of thing.
Yeah, that's like the
Um,
golden years almost, because it's basically
yeah,
like you
yeah.
don't see that level of anything nowadays. Like teams are lucky to get a month overseas if they can afford it. So it's like to hear that you were off for like half a year just playing with the boys.
Yeah,
Fuck, man.
it was crazy. I mean, salaries hadn't really kicked off yet still, so we were
Mm.
like mainly still playing on tournament winnings, but all the overseas trips got paid for, which was like it was like awesome.
Yeah.
We had like a Fox Sports documentary as well. Had that type of stuff going. Yeah, so it was really cool and just like surreal almost. And then 2017 was a pretty bad year for us, but that was like kind of we got slammed by Direwolves. Oh, we got split one. We got upset by Sin in the playoffs, which was Roma and Juves. And then split two was when we did a really good gauntlet run, but Direwolves took us out in the finals, and that was kind of the end of an era for our team. Honestly, that's like when Ejim, Spooks, and Swip3rR all left Chiefs, and me and Rays stayed around. I already kind of glossed over Radio retiring, but that happened at 20, I think around the end of 2016. He went to pursue his law degree.
Not a bad change.
Yeah, no. I mean, at the time, like, I mean, O salaries we were lucky to get more than 15K for a year. So it was pretty rough. And he kind of, he had way better options. So he took those, and we kind of stayed in it for the passion. It was all just passion back then. And 2017, 2018 is when it started becoming like actual viable full-time work. That's when salaries kind of really kicked in. And there was a lot of good teams in 2018. It was us, Direwolves. I don't know if Bombers weren't involved yet, but it was like Legacy and stuff. And there was probably 4 or 5. Order got involved.
Yeah.
4 or 5 top-heavy teams, and that was kind of. I think 2018, 2019 was the most competitive OS has been by like a long margin. Just because that was when Fudge was here. Like all the players that have gone overseas, but like that was when they were all in their primes, like for OS standards. So that was like really cool. Got to have Rift Rivals in Sydney as well, which was awesome. Yeah, no, it was good, man. I guess transitioning out of that, like I started coming second place a lot. Like I went from we had 4 splits in a row that we won, and then I came second place probably 6 splits in a row, I think it was.
Damn.
So it was brutal, man.
That
then, like,
sucks.
Yeah, it was brutal. I really was chasing that kind of win again. And I would have kept chasing it. So up until I moved to Melbourne, I wanted to kind of just change everything after 2019 because I thought that was the worst year I've ever played. I was like 6-man in with Thien, who's the top laner for Ground Zero. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like still reflect on that year, but it was a rough year for me. And I really wanted to shake things up, so I moved to Melbourne to join Order. And that was when Legacy had like a really power. It was like a really strong team in 2020, and we got to the grand final again in Split 2, and we lost that. And I was just shattered, man. I was shattered. I was completely shattered. And I was ready to run it back to 2021, but that's when Riot cut ties with OPL, and it kind of just was looking grim. That was mid-lockdown, really intense. I was even after we lost the split, me, Rare 7, and Only all got pretty much trapped in the gaming house because we were all out of state. And we were stuck there for probably 2 months afterwards, and that was when I just like had to really reflect on my life and like kind of decide what's next. Like, am I gonna stay around and potentially be on no salary again and kind of go really far backwards? Like I think I was 26 at the time, so I was kind of getting to that age where I need to like start thinking about income a bit more. And not just like be able to do things out of just raw passion. And randomly, literally, like the randomest like message I got was from Bjergsen, actually, like from TSM. He had reached out after I had made a tweet saying that I'm open-minded to international options like coaching. It was kind of like I was still like thinking about playing. Like I was like in the back of my mind, I'm gonna stay and just play and just ride the wave. he reached out and he's like, hey, do you want to come join TSM and be the assistant coach? And I was like imposter syndrome instantly, kind of like, not just like just Bjergsen's messaging me, like what? So I went through a bunch of interviews with him, and I was pretty much like set to be their assistant coach at the time, but they ended up going with get his name now, not Kays, but it was the other guy that was coaching. Curry. They went with Curry, and it was like them three. And just got some feedback about like I was too much like Bjergsen. Like I would have like too many, like wouldn't bring anything like newer to the table that Bjergsen wouldn't, essentially. So like Curry was like better fit. And then I think from the word got out that I was gonna be like, that I got through all these like interviews, like and I was like looking good as a coach, and that's when Spooks, because Spooks had already been over in Golden Guardians with Choo-Choos, and Spooks and Onera reached out and pretty much offered me they call it a two-way player coach, but it's like more like a positional coach, where like I would work specifically with the top laner for LCS, and this was all in like the span of like 3 days. Like I was pretty like down in the dumps, and I only had about like a week to decide. I have a partner in Sydney who like I was like already juggling long distance with, so it was gonna be like, it was a huge decision, but ended up just being like, oh, I gotta try this. Like, I'll regret it if I don't. Like, so that was like a big shift in like my path, I guess. Like, and I still had to come to terms with like not playing anymore, even though like I had 1 foot in still. Like I still felt like the passion, like I could grind every day, like go through it all. And ended up sending it over there, and like traveling there while COVID was like a hard thing. It was like getting the visa and all that was like a super stressful process. Had to do lockdown in like a hotel in like a really like hoodie area in LA, like right at the airport where I'm hearing gunshots every night and all that. So I was like,
and we're not used to that here. No, we're sort of just you hear a gunshot, you're like, fuck, did someone's car backfire? Over there, you're like, is that a car or is that a gun?
I mean, by the time I left LA, I was very used to it, but it's a big shock when you first get there. It's a different world in LA, to be honest. But yeah, it was an awesome experience working with like Licorice, and when I first went over there, I was with Niles, so he was like a rookie, so like I got to like really test like being like kind of the, I don't know, more like a father figure to the player, where like every single different top laner I coached, like I had to be a different coach essentially. I think that's something that I learned, is that you can't use the same system like with every single player. You kind of have to coach to the person and what works with them. So I coached Solo, who was a year older than me, so it's like I'm coaching like a really big vet, so like what can I bring to the table that he needs essentially. And then dealing with Licorice is like I guess like, I don't want to say choking, but he had like really hard time transitioning scrims to stage, and I was like having to work more closely on that, like, and just learn a lot along the way. It was good. We didn't really have like a winning roster until the last year, so it was more like we were developing players, if that makes sense. Like where in OS I was more really focused on like it's first or last kind of thing. So it was like a different culture. Anira was a really good guy to like kind of like show us the way. He got us all over there, and he was a good figure in that area. He leads reviews really well, so he kind of taught us a lot about that. How to like kind of talk to players without just like sounding like a player yourself. And then right before, like, so last year, like 2023 split 1, I was going to be like assistant with Spooks for LCS, but I really wanted to try head coach, because like I thought that that's kind of like where my skill sets really are, is like controlling an environment. So like I went down to academy and just sent it, and just got to head coach the academy team, and we did really well actually. So I was really happy.
Nice.
I was really happy with that split, because our academy team was definitely struggling before that. And that was probably that split before academy got dissolved was the most I've ever learned as a coach, to be honest. Like in that like 3 months, just like kind of having to troubleshoot like everything, and like a lot of what you say, if it's wrong, it can really impact like the environment and the team. So like you have a lot more responsibility.
Yeah.
But that's what I love doing. Like I loved it. And then yeah, like the news and all that. And the academy being dissolved was definitely like tough. It was kind of like another OPL moment of it all just like ending on me in front of me, even though like it was kind of phrased at the time that it wasn't going to happen, and it just all happened in the span of like 3 days.
Yeah.
And then getting offered back your positional job, like I was just like, nah, I'm done. Like I don't really want to go back to like positional coaching. I was like, long distance was getting tough. And
Yeah.
like, nah, I'm just gonna come home. I'm gonna try and like set, in a way, like my mindset was like save O's. Like I'm gonna like use what I've learned. I was gonna like use what I've learned to come and impact the region again. I didn't end up finding a job like in that split 2, funnily enough, when I came back. Like everything was like, the timing was really bad though. Like when I came back to Australia, it was already like rosters were locked. It was like split 2, which there's not a lot of changes that happened. So I kind of sat the whole split out. And yeah, just kind of like waited over the off season, and my intention was to coach, but then I got a message from Roma, and he really wanted me to join the roster as a player, and I was like, all right, well, I've still got some unfinished business, you know, like I do, like I still grind the game a lot. Like let's send it, let's see what happens. So,
you're back with like the OG team, because this is Antic now too. So we've progressed from start to where we currently are, which is Antic, and you're now the jungler. You've taken over for Nine God as well, who I went and spoke to Nine God about it in his stream, being like, hey man, like kind of sad, but also Swip3rR, and he's just like, yeah. Swip3rR. I was like, yeah, I'm not mad about this. At the same time, I'm sad for you, Nine God, but I'm not mad about this. Tell us about it. Like, I know you were getting to it, and I wanted to just interject a little bit. Tell me about how Antic's feeling. Like, you guys have just reached playoffs. You've made it through. You're in the top 3. How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, honestly, we've had some growing pains, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, if I'm being completely honest with you, I think I think starting the split, everyone had very high expectations of like how the team would do. There's obviously a lot of built-in ego, which is like kind of warranted. These guys have just come fresh back from NA, and like they are supercharged. Like Roma, King, and I think Draco took a split off, but he did play a split in NA.
He just got jacked in that time.
Oh, he's massive.
So, like, do you see the video I posted today on Twitter? Holy shit, man. He's got no waist, but he's just fucking Dorito up top. I'm like, does he actually do leg day? That's the running joke. Does he actually do it? I haven't seen his legs.
He says he squats 140 for reps, so he's doing alright, I guess.
I need proof of that, though.
We do need some videos, actually.
Yeah. Just one of it down there, recording him do the squats. That's all I care for. So, Dragon, we've called you out. You need to do it. If you don't do it, I'm just going to keep calling you Dorito. But so you guys are feeling pretty good. You came in with a lot of pressure, which, like you said, was sort of warranted. You are sort of a bit of a dream team too, like almost an OG dream team, going up against Bliss and Ground Zero, who are sort of like very well established. I think Ground Zero's got the player levels of what's made them established. But tell us, you guys have gotten through. Where do you think your mental's at? Because you said you guys are, I would technically say, a tier above everyone, just because you do have that experience. How are you guys finding the current state? You said you were having some growing pains.
Yeah, I mean, I think a part of it, and like I'll take responsibility, is just me transitioning to jungle on like such short notice. Like I pretty much started. I was like subbing as the top laner. I wasn't. I was playing as the top laner up until like maybe a week before the split started. And then we swapped out jungle. The team decided that they wanted me to like try a jungle essentially, and chuck Zoronos in top lane. Yep. So like we kind of had to like start our journey very fast, and like we're dealing with pressure on stage and like scrimming teams that have been scrimming for like over a month. And some of these boys don't like losing, which is like kind of like where like we should have been okay with losing a bit more. I think if I was like, I mean, because I'm so focused on jungle, I'm not able to like use my coaching expertise as much on the environment. Like I'm kind of like trying to focus very heavily on myself. Where there's definitely things that I see like in third person when I'm looking back, like, oh, like I could probably be trying to attack this area in the environment. I think that's generally what we need to like tackle the most, is just like becoming that brotherhood, like that culture.
Yeah.
And just having each other's backs and kind of like getting on the same page and like thinking in the same brain, because we have a lot of good individual talent. Everyone has like a lot of good ideas, but the thing with League of Legends is like there are a lot of ways that you can play the game, but you have to like be on the same page, and that's kind of, I think, where we're finding trouble. But if we can like get better at that, I think we would be. I truly think we'd be strong favorites if we can like get on top of that. Like if you watch our games, like we normally start the game very well, but our mid game, at least like against ION and Direwolves, was like very sloppy. We had really good early, but like it turned out to be a very hard game.
Yeah, especially that Ion series that just passed. Like that was, like, honestly, I was looking at it going like, fuck, like, does Ion actually take this here? Like they can. But again, as someone who just studies the pro scene as a caster and stuff, I do notice there's one consistent thing that Antic does that no other team in OS does do. So this is my little hot tip for you as an outside. I've had people message me being like, hey, who's gonna win? I'm just like, stop placing bets, dickhead, fuck off. But no, what you guys seem to do is, because of your experience, you're so consistent into your late game. And I'm sure you guys have probably said this, is where all the other teams, I would even argue Bliss and GZ are in the same sort of boat to an extent. No one knows how to finish games in OS. We just like to play the game so much, we're happy to go to 40 minutes and just coin flip a team fight. Whereas you guys would be either slightly behind or a little bit ahead, but you're just like, I don't know, we just close this out. Let's just push the advantage. Or if you don't have the advantage, you're like, where is our advantage? You actually go looking for it. No other team does that, and that's the big thing, especially internationally OS does, is we're always just like, yeah, no, we just gotta win our lanes. Win our lanes. I'm like, nah, dude. Laning phase is just farming, bruh. Just get your items, then you're starting to fight. So I think you guys have that advantage, and that's just from watching every bloody game. But still, like, that's a big thing that I think you guys do well. What would be your counterpoint to that? What do you think you guys need to do well, besides being on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just adding on to what you said, I think what OS has always lacked is like understanding of tempo and like how to play numbers on the map. Like I think a lot of us have like always defaulted to like playing either 3 lanes of farm or like a lot of ARAMing, but like with not much thought towards it. It was like kind of like how it's always been. But for me at least, like when I played, like during a lot of those years, I didn't actually really watch how like Korean and LPL teams play macro. You normally watch like your like laners, like individual, like what are they doing, stuff like that. So I guess like watching like how T1 close games, like post Second Herald, like how they 2-lane so aggressively, they're willing to trade towers, like stuff like that. Which objectives they're willing to give and like kind of trade is like what we are pretty good at least. Like I'll give a lot of credit to Roma. I think he really knows what he wants in the game, and like he dictates a lot of like these like key moments that you see, like even in the Bliss series when like game 2 was just very lost. We had that last team fight where like we bard ulted all of them, and we probably would have won the game there if like we played it a little bit better. But yeah, we're really good at that. Something that we need to get better at is, I mean, for example, like in the jungle, like people are starting to just pick Brand every game against me because like I am not super efficient at jungle clearing. Like I have like a solid understanding of like how lanes work, so I like kind of over-index on that sometimes, and like I'm trying to like pressure the map too much where I should be farming here or there. I think we all kind of play for individual leads a little bit too much. We could be like using our priority, like lane priority, to get more deep vision, stuff like this, like just kind of basic things. Yeah. And then how we team fight is like what we really need to like, I guess like on stage it probably looks like we're good at team fighting, but that's just like we don't really communicate it like super well. Like we could be we hit different targets and like we use like we just think we're not aligned on like how we want to fight yet. I do think within the next couple weeks we should get better at that and really truly understand with like how we want to approach things. But for example, me and Dracu are like very aggressive. when they're like Roma, Zonos King, like they kind of like to play the fight like slower and more like calculated. So like it's just kind of like trying to meet in the middle and find that middle ground, and building on that. I think that is definitely the area where we need to like improve the most. And I think once we do that, I mean Ground Zero and Bliss are both very strong. They have a lot of pros and cons as well. But like you said, I think our experience can definitely like put us towards like the trophy.
Yeah, I think a big thing as well, and even just from talking to you and listening to you explain your history and stuff, is I've noticed especially that OS players, forgive me if I'm out of turn, are very egotistical. There is a lot of ego. Even in like high elo, like I'm not a high elo player, but I'm getting pretty close. I could see how there's just egomaniacs fucking everywhere, dude. They just like the amount of shit I get called when I'm streaming and it's just I'm just playing solo kill. I'm just like, bruh, like I've just solo killed you and you're still talking shit. Like, what are you doing? So I can only imagine it just gets worse and worse. Do you think that's a big flaw for OS?
I honestly, it doesn't help the individual. Like having like, I mean, I think like ego is definitely healthy in like a competitive space. I think as an athlete, you definitely need an ego. But you need to be like, I think you need to be aware of it, and it can't be too blindly confident. Like you need to still like know what your weaknesses and strengths are. On the solo, you're like, dude, I get called like an old man every single game, like, every solo. I honestly, like, I go read, like, the LCO Twitch chat, and I just see so much flame. And honestly, it fuels me these days. Like, it used to, like, piss me off real bad, and I used to, like, want to, like, hunt these little kids down. But, like, these days, it's, like, it's chill. I think, I mean, I don't know how to phrase it, but it's, like, there are for sure, like, a lot of delusional players, and just people. But I mean, I think you just grow. Like as you get older, you kind of just like get better at handling.
They're young. It's literally the younger players is what I've noticed. They're the ones with the ego because they're coming in, big chip on their shoulder, and they're just like, yeah, no, I've got this. And then they do get humbled, and they're just like, no, I just fucked up. No, my keyboarding for fucked. I'm like, bruh. You're probably behind the scenes. They're probably taking you off camera because you're smashing your keyboard, just being so pissed that you just got dominated. Like, I see it so much, and it's just funny because you can, as someone who's been in the scene and casting, and I've watched players play, like, standing behind them, you see the mental, like, the process that people go through, and you can just sort of tell after a while, you can see the character that people sort of put on when they're playing. Like, do you find... I'm trying not to be... I'm a very positive person. I'm not trying to talk negatively about anyone or anything like that. No. But, like, do you sort of see where what I'm sort of trying to hint at is, like, do you think there needs to be a bigger change for us to start progressing to a higher caliber of play?
Yeah, honestly, like, OS could be way better than it is. Like, no doubt about that. I think the players definitely play a big part in that. I think the work ethic and the drive player to player isn't really there anymore. I think I mean, even back then, we used to be very egotistical. Like, if I lost a grand final, I wouldn't watch it. Like, I would just, like, block it out of my memory. But, like, I'm willing to, like, watch my losses now and kind of, like, try and work on, like, what I did wrong. I do think, so, like, I think the players kind of need to just, if they're going to be in LCO and their goal is to still try and do really well, they need to embrace this as like a passion project and not think about too, like, there's a lot of like salary talk going around and like kind of like all that stuff, but it's like we all do this because we just love competition. And like if you're young, like you don't have to really think about it. Like for me as an individual, like I won't tell you how to live, but like I never really thought about like the future. If I was like playing, and like even right now I'm not doing anything else in my life, even though I probably should be like trying to like branch out. Like I should be like thinking about what's next, but like I jumped balls deep into this, like full passion. And that's just kind of how I am, and that I think that is a part of why I've always been pretty successful. And I think everyone could kind of like, I mean, I'm like a lot of people do. I wouldn't say that I'm like the only person that doesn't, but if you want to be the best, if you want to be your best self, you have to all in. Like you have to all in, or you won't really find them results. I do think also, like the high, like it all starts at the top, and I think like organizations don't really like investing in support staff and coaches because like I mean it's kind of exactly what I said. Like salary isn't really a thing, so like getting someone that is a really experienced coach is quite hard. I do think if there was really good coaches, they would probably be able to put players more in line. So I think it always starts there, but most of these orgs are run by the players, which is like kind of going to hurt growth. Like, I mean, you couldn't really name a sport where there's not like where like players run things. Like it's not, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah. And it's so funny, like you mentioned like the financial side, and I've spoken to so many people about it. How all the players are on just like KFC Zinger boxes, all that sort of shit. And I'm over the point now of, it's not that we don't have to talk about it, but I'm actually over talking about it because we all know there's a financial crisis. There's a fucking like hectic winter of money in esports. Like LCO's got none. Fucking every other game has none in OS. It's sadly just what it is. I think we need to start having people pitching new ideas that do start to change that. I think that's the difference. And when you talk about players with passion looking to grow the scene, not for financial gain, obviously that is nice to have, but when it's not about that, it's about what can we bring to the table that's going to help elevate where we currently are, because we're not going to improve. It's not going to get any better if we keep getting pieces, again, I'll paraphrase, pieces of shit coming in just trying to be like, nah, fuck this, I'm just going to be the best and be an egotistical maniac. I'm like, shut up. Just let it be what it needs to be. Let's get the right people in, which, in my opinion, we have that right now. I think we have a lot of really good people looking after the scene, or at least trying to elevate the scene. All the people I've spoken to just want to see us do better. And I think we're now at a bit of a turning point. I'd say this split, especially with like you guys coming back, that was a turning point in my opinion. Getting players that have been overseas, that have this wealth of knowledge, that have that experience, are bringing something back to OS. And I think that's just so critical. It's like you said, if we get better coaches in, we're going to advance, right? We now got some fantastic players that have played overseas. They're coming back into the scene. Sweet. How can you guys start initiating that change and initiating a new cycle of how O should be taking the sport? But at the same time, I know there's back-end things going on. I know like esports is trying to get like government grants, so we're actually treated like an actual sport, which ultimately will result in funding, which means LCO is going to kick off properly and we'll have like an actual stadium or some shit like that. So there's all these things in the works, right? And it's going to change. I think my big tip that I've been telling everyone is, you're just going to hold on. Like, esports is now getting, it's in the Olympics. It's technically there. We just got to hold on. We got to give it a couple more years. Just keep doing what we're doing. We can, obviously there's things we can improve. Everything can improve. Fucking running can improve. Just be a better runner. But like, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Is we've got the people here that are looking to do better. So I think that's going to really help change the scene. So which is what my thoughts on the next question for you are. What are your thoughts for the future of the LCO? What are you hoping?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of in it for, I guess right now I'm in it for the ride, exactly what you said. Like, I'm just kind of, I wouldn't say I'm waiting around. Like, I'm trying to do things about it. Like, I'm, in a way, like, look, my age definitely is a factor in my play. I'm not in, like, the prime of my career anymore, but I'm still working incredibly hard. And, like, I think, at least for me, I hope, like, I'm leading by example in a way. Like, if you go look at my solo queue, I've played, like, probably like the third most in the whole server at the moment, like, or something like that. Like, it's just an absurd number.
Well, who's one and like, two then?
I know Thean is quite high, and then I think that's it for like LCO players.
Yeah,
I don't
Thean needs it though.
Yeah, I mean, he's struggling, isn't he? But yeah, I mean, I have faith in the region, obviously. I always will. I'll always try and stick around. Even like I think I have plans that like I was going to start this year. Like, I'm putting on hold because I'm playing. But I'll definitely like start the transition if I need to move on. But I have hope that LCO will kind of like create a comeback, and this should be a very competitive playoffs. Honestly, I think it's going to be like, it's pretty much 50-50 who's going to take it, I think, between the top 3 teams. So, like, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to be a part of it. I think it's going to be fun to watch. And hopefully, like, the teams that go over can impact the PCS, which is, like, definitely... It's a hard task, obviously. I think winning is, like, almost impossible, but at least, like, going over there and, like, impacting it and not just getting, like, shit on is, like, a good goal for, like, whoever gets to go over there. Yeah, I mean, for example, last year I think Cheese had very strong individual talent. I think that roster was incredibly good. I don't think they wanted it high, like, enough, like, to actually go over there and like put something like together.
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Yeah,
I probably shouldn't say those thoughts. I can, though, if you'd like to hear those thoughts. I've said it before in other interviews, but we can leave it at that if you'd like.
Go for it, man. I don't mind. Yeah.
So, back onto the same note as that is we have now removed the players that were just holding positions. They were holding positions. They've been in the game for a very long time. Granted, they were still very good players, but like you said, their heart wasn't in it. The difference now is players have their heart in it. They're not in it for the financial gain or the fame or the wealth or anything like that. They're here because they want to be a fantastic League of Legends player in Oceania. That's the takeaway I get. And a lot of people will say, oh, there's very specific names that Pike's definitely thinking about there. Yeah, you're right. And I'm not trying to call them out, which is why I'm not using names, but I'm trying to make the obvious style of what I'm looking at is these players were very good, fantastic roster, just didn't have the drive. There was zero drive there. They knew they were the best, so why try? So then the second they got to the next tier up, oh shit, maybe we're not the best. And that's what sort of hit them with the falter. And it's the same with, well, not the same, but like Tally. He went to Worlds back in Mexico, and everyone was like, oh, Tally, you fucking dropped everything. No, he just was versing a whole nother tier of class up. Like, that wasn't on him. He just got beaten. And I said that to him, I'm like, mate, I feel bad that you got beaten, but he's just like, yeah, just, they were better than me. Like, simple as that. OS needs to understand our position in the greater scheme of things. Like, yes, we're not the most developed, we're still a very young region, but passion and a drive can actually beat talent 9 times out of 10 because you're working harder. And you've just said that. You've played the 3rd most games, like, in the whole region. That is what I believe in, and that's why I'd put money on Antic to win. It's the people who want to develop and be the best will be the best. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And for example, if we lose to Bliss or GZ, then in my eyes they just wanted it more. Yeah. Across the board, you know. I think that's just how it always is. Chiefs did end up winning last year, which, like, I still think that, like, the players, they wanted to win deep down. But, like, I mean, for example, knowing that a lot of them didn't go live in the gaming house that was provided to them is just, like, it's a bit of a bummer in my head, you know. I think there could have been so much more. Like, just that roster, I think, could have been a roster that really impacted PCS. And,
easy.
Push teams. And Bliss was still developing. I think why not in that? And like Limas, I think Limas is very good, by the way. But I think these players are still developing and they're still growing as players. And like, I mean, they're looking strong this year, like on different teams. And yeah, I mean, like I think even us, like we still need to work harder. I think Antic do as well. I think we're definitely potentially like slacking in a way. I think a few of us, and we could be putting more effort in areas that like we like. I won't go into too much detail, but we could be putting in more effort across the board, honestly. And I think if we do that, we can go over and affect PCS. Right now, I still think we might struggle. Like, to be honest, I think like we definitely need to level up. I think our ceiling is quite high, though. I think I think we can be a very good team if we like really put our mind to it and become like a very close unit and work like be honest with ourselves and work on what we need to work on. And if we can do that, then I don't think anyone can really touch us. But say if we do lose, then obviously like I would say to disappoint. I would say I will be honestly a little bit embarrassed if we don't win this. But just based on the roster that we have, I think we should win. Even though like I am a bit older, like I'm haven't played in a while. Like Roma, King, and Draco have all played in NA Academy, which I've experienced Academy over there like for years. It is better than OS. Like at least like on paper, it is better than OS. And if they can come back and we can't win, then like it's a bit of an embarrassment, obviously. So like that's kind of where my head is at, and where like I want all of our heads to be out in the team. So we'll see how playoffs go. You know, we dropped 2 games to Bliss, but it could have went either way, and like we can still win for sure. I'm very confident that we'll still win. But I mean, if one of the other 2 teams can take it off us, then like respect, you know, respect.
They're gonna have to work for it though.
Of course, they're gonna work for it. Of course.
It's funny, like, so I've now basically you've given me permission in Twitch chat to just every time I see you guys make a mistake, I can just go fucking pull your thumb out. Come on, man. What is this? Why are you doing this shit?
Of course. Flame away, man. Flame away. It's deserved.
No, I'm not a flame. I'm not a flame. I don't believe in that. I don't think you can impact people like that. That's just something I've always believed. It's easy to be positive and happy. It's easier for me. But I'll take it if I'm allowed to do it. I probably won't do it.
Sure. Well, the pass is there if you need it.
The pass. He's giving me a fucking swipe card and I'm good to go. I had to get a pun in there somehow, man. They call me Papa Pike for a reason. Okay, well now I want to get to know you maybe a little bit more. We've touched on Antic, we've touched on like LCO, we've touched on your history. Let's just look at a different side of Swip3r. I think that's something I don't do enough in these interviews. We've been very LCO focused, very Oceania. I want to move a bit away from that. I want people to know who you are. You've been around for a while. Let's get to know. So you actually were studying at one point. You were studying IT, funnily enough. Was that correct?
Yeah, I did IT for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a long-lasting thing, to be honest, because I was a bit of a degenerate back then, to be honest with you. Like I was kind of like jumping between a lot of like TAFE stuff, and IT was something that definitely stuck more than other areas. So I can't really translate it too much to like my career, I guess, but I mean I got to like kind of socialize and be around people and kind of work on that, and I guess enjoy the process of learning something. Like helps me a little bit, because in high school like my mind was all over the place. Like I was just kind of like couldn't focus on anything, like couldn't read, like none of that stuff. So kind of helped me, I guess, grow a little bit. But yeah, ever since then it's just been sports. So.
Nice. Okay, then let's transition back to esports then. So tell us about the pink shorts. So everyone's probably listening to this going, pink shorts, Pike, are you on crack? And I'll be like, well, a little bit of crack. But no, Swip3r, you apparently you've been wearing pink shorts quite a bit. Do you still do the pink shorts?
No, not anymore, unfortunately. Might have been why I started losing, to be honest with you. Now that I think about it.
So why not Scott his dancers? You had your pink shorts. Mate, I want to see the pink shorts back. Can you wear the pink shorts for me? Playoffs?
I mean, I'd have to go buy a new pair. I don't even know where that last pair went. But like, I used to wear it like even OPL I was wearing it on stage because like our legs weren't getting shown, so it like was okay for the camera. But when we went to so I was like winning every game with him. It was like a superstition, like for me. Like I'm very routine focused. I have to be like very strict on it, and that was a part of it. And we went overseas, and I had this really big fallout with the refs because they wouldn't let me wear the pink shorts. They actually like made me change into like black jeans.
What?
And I was like, guys, please, like I need to. And it was honestly, I made a big deal out of it, but I didn't win, so I had to like kind of get rid of them.
Yeah, it's their fault.
Yeah, I mean, it was all that, and then I think it just kind of disappeared after that. Like I don't remember really wearing them after that, but it was like a big deal for me back then. Maybe I'll have to buy a pair for the playoffs. Actually, you've kind of put that seed in my head.
Look, if I can get like anything, I've got a lot of goals right now. I've still got to make Kissei laugh. That's a big goal of mine. I haven't seen that guy smile once. I've now got to get a video clip of Draco doing squats. I need to see the pink shorts. I think I got to go all the way. I got to get 10 other players and get them doing something. Maybe I can't ask Arsh to do something scat on Twitter because he just does everything scat on Twitter anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
So I want to see these pink shorts now. I'm pitching that to you. If I see them, I don't know. Maybe I should do something for you. I don't know, I'll have to think about it. I'll let you know. I'll get back to you.
all right. Well, maybe I might have to just drop by industry in the next couple of days. We'll see what happens.
Why not? Now, okay, we'll move on to the next one. So Swip3rr, your name is very... A lot of people actually talk about your name as a very sort of almost like an OG name. Like King's a very OG name. But Swip3rr, so did that actually come from Dora the Explorer? I mentioned that right at the start in your intro. Is that actually where it came from?
No, it didn't actually.
It didn't. Well, now I just sound like a dick.
No. I mean, everyone thinks it did, and I leave it like that because it's like a story not worth telling, I guess. But like, I'll tell it.
I want to hear it.
But I used to have like a best mate, and his dad was like a tagger, like he would spray paint.
Oh, cool. I used to do that.
And he's like, yeah, like he was like he would go and actually like do. I think he got contracted to do it and stuff like that. So he was like pretty good, and his tag was Swipe. It was like Swipe with like 2 E's, and I was like, that's really cool, actually. Like, that looks sick. And then I made my hero. So like, I played Heroes of New Earth, and I made that. My username was Swipe with 2 E's. Like, it was that for the longest time ever. And on League of Legends, I did mention that I was like quite a negative person, right? Like when I was back then. So I actually got permanently banned on like Oceania with the tag Swipe. So I had to make a second account, and I was like I really like the name Swipe. So like it just came to me, like, let's just do Swiper with the 3. Like, it looks really cool. Like, now that I look at it these days, it's like, it's not that cool, you know. But like back then it was like, I thought I was just a legend. So that's how it happened, and then I've just kind of rode with it ever since. And when someone says Dora the Explorer, I just like agree with them, you know.
Fuck. So is this the first time you've actually told the story though? Like, obviously you've probably told it to some other people. They've gone and be like, oh, Swiper no swiping Swiper. You're probably like, fuck off. Shit.
Honestly, I don't think I've talked about an interview before. I think a few of my teammates know like the origin of it, so like that probably is the first time I've like legitimately talked about it. Wow. I normally just keep it easy, so.
Oh look, honestly, we've got the scoop then. That's the title, is like how Swiper got his name. That's the clickbait I've needed. Thank you so much for that.
You got permanently banned on
yeah.
And that's how it happened.
Classic. Actually, I want to talk about that because just a little side note. Like, what was it like getting permanently banned? Like, was that a different age? Like, obviously you've definitely matured since then, and you've maintained your name and account. What was it like? I don't know many people that have actually been permanently banned.
It was definitely a wake-up call on like that. I was kind of like projecting like how I was feeling as a person. I mean, I think if like someone comes at you for no reason in League, like in solo queue, like I kind of just feel sorry for them at like these days, because like I know they're probably like, obviously I get angry at them, right? But like I feel sorry for them like in hindsight, like because like they're probably like just having a shit time.
Yeah.
Because back then I was definitely in dark places, and I would just call people names. Like get really aggressive towards people for no reason, like just looking for fights. Like on Hon there was voice comms, and I would just have like yelling matches with people in voice comms. Like if League had voice, it'd be the same thing. You just get a bunch of arguing all the time. So I want to say I reflected, but it definitely still took me a bit of time after that. I remember making like a post on like forums, like victimizing myself and trying to like get unbanned because I had spent like thousands of dollars on my account. So yeah, it was the start of like I guess reflection arc of me just like not being a dick and kind of like becoming a better person. It didn't really kick in until I started exercising, to be honest. That's when I really started like changing the way I view the world.
It's actually so funny. You said something that I like to do in my games, and I actually, because I'm a big studier of like psychology. I love being able to understand people. Maybe I'm slightly on the spectrum or something about that, but it's just like knowing how people interact or sort of work. And in gaming especially, I find that so mostly entertaining, how people just start getting really arced up over nothing, and I'm just like the big blind that I always hit them with is like, are you okay? Like, are you good? And they're just like, no, I'm not good, you fucking jumped in, like, why would you do that? I'm just like, no. Like, personally, are you okay at home? Like, are you safe right now? And they go, what do you mean? What is this? And I'm just like, do we need to get into a call? Do you like want me to call someone? Like, are you okay? And I sent one guy once the Beyond Blue helpline, because he just kept going. I was like, mate, I think you need to call these guys. I clearly can't help this situation. He's gone, you fucker. And I didn't get banned or nothing. I was just like, man, if you need hand, just give these guys a call. But you're right. It's like a lot of the toxicity that you find in this day and age, especially online, is people struggling at home. They don't have the greatest lives. I know I've had a very similar situation, like you said, to yourself too. I had a very rough upbringing, very hard childhood. I had a lot of anger as a child. I was the opposite though, where I didn't take it out on people, I took it out on myself. I was a very, very troubled youth. And then I learned through very hard times, and it's just like, you know what, you got to get to a level where you can't keep living like that. It's not sustainable. You do. Everyone struggles, and I'm not saying I've had it harder than anyone. You have harder than me. Everyone has their own journey, and I think identifying that, especially in the gaming world, especially at a pro level, knowing that they need to find that journey and find that the grass on the other side is so important. And I guess that's why my stream personally is always about positivity. I go into every game 100% positive. If I lose, I lose. Doesn't matter. A loss is a loss. It's just, you just got to learn from that game. If you win, cool. How do you win with grace? How do you be the best player you can be? How do you go in feeling excited for the next game? And it's something I try to instill in my viewers, because at the end of the day, a lot of people play games to either A, escape, or B, to have fun. How do we make it more about fun than trying to escape, right? And I'm sure you can probably relate a little bit to that.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, thanks for sharing that. It's always cool to hear, like, people just, like, I guess, going through that journey and that process of, like, becoming better. And I think you run into it a lot, like, even as coaching, like, these players, like, even overseas, like, I mean, most of the people that I worked with, like, were struggling with something and kind of, like, battling that and finding solutions. It always comes from yourself, you know. You can't really, like, you can try and, I guess, like, help somebody with, like, their problem, but if they don't want to listen, which a lot of the time, like, they're just like, there's a lot of white noise going on, and like, you got to kind of just, like, lead them in a path and get them. Like, I think what works for me the most, and, like, the success that I've found with some people is just trying to get them, like, more focused on goals and, like short-term goals, long-term goals. I mean, a lot of physiotherapy, like, oh, not physio, but
exercise.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, anything you can do with exercise, I think, is, like, the blueprint for, like, for me curing all of that. It changed my life, honestly. Like, I was like you, I assume, like, very down, and then, like, slowly introducing weightlifting, running. I was doing boxing, which helped a lot. That definitely made me a much better person and a better player as well. And I do think that is an area where I think a lot of these, like, players as well probably are still in that phase where they haven't really tried alternatives to, like, working on themselves other than just grinding solo queue, and, like, their whole mood is based on if they're winning or losing solo queue. You know, that's their entire life. And, like, yeah, I do think having, like, some routine to your life will help a lot with that. At least it worked a lot for me, which, like, I can say. So. Oh,
dude, that's two for two right now. I was exactly the same. Like, I remember when I had my very dark days. I went and did MMA, and I took all that anger and I went out and fought people. Like, I was a good fighter. Like, I got accepted to the UFC. I was, like, very, very skilled. But I never did it for that. I did it because, one, I wanted to be safe. Like, I wanted to just feel safe with who I was, because I wasn't a good person to be around. And two, I just wanted to fight people, because I was just like, well, if I'm going to fight them, I may as well know how to fight. So I have so many stories of going out, just fighting people, like, in the street. Like, it was bad, like, very bad. So, like, that's the difference, though. But because of that fighting and getting into a cage, I realized it's not actually the reason you fight. Like, I actually learnt the reason to fight, and I take the same principles into my games. Is when I go into a game, I'm there to win, because that's my goal. So when you go to fight someone, your goal is to survive. So taking that mentality is why I would actually implore anyone to at least maybe study a martial art or learn boxing. Like you said, boxing was good for you as well. Like, learning to face someone face on, you translate that into so much of life. It's such a critical lesson to learn. So I think what I was trying to get to is, like, it's learning to embrace your demons a little bit and say, you know what? The demon inside is not actually who I am. I get to define who I am. And once you learn how to do that, you learn to be a better person.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, man. 100%. That's like, everyone should listen to that, to be honest. That's some really good advice. I think I'm very aligned. Like, I'm a huge, like, MMA fan and all that. And just, like, listening to all these athletes' stories on, like, how they all had really rough upbringings and how they've, like, found solutions to it. And it's like it's all very similar, you know. It's like we can all kind of, like, relate on how we, like, found a way. I'm sure there's different ways to it, but that's definitely a very good way to get like your emotions out and just kind of figure out yourself, is doing a martial art or boxing.
Yeah,
it's something very difficult. Like,
challenging yourself. Like, you got to push your limits. Like, you can't actually grow and develop unless you are actually going beyond your boundaries, right? Like, if you try to learn to drive but you never actually start the car, you're never going to learn to drive. Like, it's the same thing with anything. Like, if you want to be challenger, you need to start fucking playing like a challenger player, right? Like, that's the difference. And I think it's such a mentality shift, man. I'm a bit of an old soul like that, eh? Like, people just think, oh, no, I can get it next week. I'm like, bitch, you're a basic motherfucker. You are not getting that shit next week. You need to grind 2, 3, 4 years, come back, then we'll chat. Like, that's just what it is nowadays. I think that instant gratification of society is fucking everyone up. And I'm so tired of it, man. Like, I'm tired of it. But at the same time, I'm still driving, so... But yeah, that's just what it is, man. I think we need to start seeing that a little bit more on a professional level, too. We see people like yourself already doing that. We need people to understand your side of things so that they can learn from that, too. And maybe learn it a little bit faster than you learned it, which is, at the end of the day, probably both our goals is to pass on our knowledge to the younger generation a little bit faster.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, it's why I like got into coaching, and that I guess like I didn't really feel it until I did the head coaching at the academy. But that's when I was like, oh, like I can actually have a lot of influence on like this younger generation, you know. And like I've made so many mistakes that I regret, like through playing and like growing up, and like it's hard to hear that advice when you're younger. But if you can kind of like get it to them, like they can just become supercharged, and they can like progress so much faster. And that's why, as the game progresses, there's gonna like I mean, even the base level of skill today is so much higher than it was like even 5 years ago.
Yep.
Like it's not like you watch games back then and like they look like gold platinum games like today, you know, back then. Like that's just kind of like that's how insane esports is because we're such a young sport. I mean, the Counter-Strike, you have guys that are 33 still playing, right? But like give it like 5 years, like I mean the base level is just grows in every single game. It's awesome to watch and be a part of, honestly. Yeah. And like it'll be cool to see if it goes into like virtual reality, which I'm sure eventually it will. But like for now, like I mean we'll see how long like this journey lasts with like League of Legends and stuff. So
why did my mind instantly when it goes into virtual reality, I'm just like, I cannot wait to be Misfortune, and I'm just going to look right down and just go, whoa, League of Legends, you son of a gun.
Hopefully by
I'll be like, whoa, where'd these come from? And they're just going to see me, I'm just going to be standing there doing this weird shit, being like, whoa.
The potential.
Man, game changer, I don't know. Or, I don't want to say what, no, I can't do it.
I hear you, man, I hear you.
There's going to be some weird live streams out there.
I mean, there already is. It's gonna get far beyond that.
Fuck yeah, sounds lit.
Oh yeah.
All right, so but that does bring us to the end. But before we go, and I think you may know what we've got lined up is my little fun game that I like to do with all of my interviewees called Pub or Sub. Now, most of the time, people go for the pub option. It's a pretty good option. But basically, what I'm going to do for you, Swiper, is I'm going to give you 20 seconds on the clock. You need to answer as many questions as I throw at you as possible. If I like your answers, you can either get a pub or a sub. Pub is, I'll buy you a drink at like DreamHacks or wherever we're at an event together. Sub is, I'll give you a sub to my Twitch channel. I can see why most people go for the pub option. But Swiper, are you ready for the pub or sub?
Let's go, mate. Let's go. You're getting me a bit anxious, but let's see here. Let's hear it.
It always throws people for a loop. That's the best part. But we have the timer up on the clock. All right. Swiper, will start after the first question. You ready?
Yep.
If you could play any other champion other than Tryndamere and main them forever, who would it be?
Renekton.
Renekton. Why Renekton?
I don't know. I like slice and dice, and I love flush engaging on the W flush engaging.
True. All right. Who's your best player on your team besides you?
Ryoma.
Ryoma. Why?
He just knows what he wants in the game. He knows how to carry.
If you had to kiss anyone on your team, who would it be?
Probably King.
King. Well, I'm glad you answered that. I like those answers. That's your time up, mate. Congratulations. That's definitely a pub or sub answer. I've hit you with some weird ones. Like, I feel like we got to that level, but mate, which one do you want?
Going deeper. I thought we were going even deeper than that. I was going to be worried.
We can if you'd like, but we won't do that to you.
Pub. Let's take the pub.
Pub it is, mate, guys. I'm going to have to buy you a beer. We'll get you something. I think DreamHacks is coming up, so if you're there, I'm there. I owe so many people drinks. It's just getting worse. I'm gonna be fucking broke.
That's
after
gonna
that
be a
trip.
bit expensive for you, mate.
Yeah, that's
I'm
alright.
looking forward to the freebie.
Look, it's if I get shots though, that's well, actually shots are more expensive. Let's not worry about the shots. Well, mate, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute joy having you on. You've been an absolute blast. This is actually the longest interview I've done just because I was enjoying chatting just so much. Guys, don't forget to cheer for Antic moving forward as they head into playoffs in the LCO 2024. Big thank you again. Swip3rR, anyone you'd like to shout out before we go?
Oh, just the fans that are still around supporting me. To be honest, like I just got a lot of respect and like just appreciate you a lot. So keep following my journey.
He loves the fans. We love the fans too, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next adventure.